I will be talking about the association between cannabis or marijuana or weed and the risk to get into an unhealthy weight. I recently had a teenager discussing with his mom about whether smoking marijuana was one of the reasons that he was in an unhealthy weight. So he was saying, no, that's nothing to do with it. And his mom was saying, no, I think this has a lot to do with it. So I decided to look more into the scientific evidence and see if there were any studies that have actually looked into that. So in fact, there has been a study. It was based on a few thousand of teenagers, and it was teenagers that they were followed over time, and they were also getting measurements of their height, their weight, and their habitual patterns during adolescence in terms of smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol, and also smoking weed. Then they looked at them for several years, and then they followed them when they were adults, early in their early adulthood, and they looked to see whether there was any association between their habit of smoking marijuana with the unhealthy weight gain. The actual title of the manuscript is Association Between Adolescent Substance Use and Obesity in Young Adulthood, a group-based dual trajectory analysis. It was published in 2013 in the Addictive Behavior journal. There was a total of 5,141 teenagers. It was a part of a big study, the National Longitudinal Survey of Youth, which was started in 1979. And they looked at all those kids for many years until they were from 12 to 18 years of age to when they were 20 to 24 years of age. So at the beginning of this study, they looked at several other different things, but they also looked at their habits, as I said, about cigarette smoking, alcohol use, and marijuana use. And then they looked also to look what was their BMI, their body mass index, when they were 20 to 24. And if you don't know what body mass index, again, I invite you to go back to episode 1 of the Lifestyle and Weight Loss for Teens podcast, where I explain more about what is BMI and how much weight does a teenager needs to lose to be in a healthy weight. But in summary, BMI is a tool that researchers use to evaluate whether a teenager is in a healthy or unhealthy weight, and if so, how much weight do they need to lose to be in a healthy weight or not. What the researchers found was that, and I'm just going to focus really on marijuana use, and what this study found was that teenagers that were smoking more marijuana were more likely to be in an unhealthy weight when they were 20 and 24. In other words, they were more likely to gain weight with this persistent marijuana use during the teenage years. And again, this is more than 5,000 of kids that they were followed over many years. So the question is, why does this happen? And why does marijuana use lead to unhealthy weight? There are several reasons why this can happen. One is that marijuana use tends to increase the appetite. It is a substance. It has effects on the brain. So some of the effects have all these effects on the cognition and behavioral, that this is why teenagers actually want to use it. But they also have effects on the appetite regulation. So they eat more, they're more hungry, so they are more likely to eat food when they don't need it as a side effect of having marijuana use. Now, the second mechanism by which marijuana use can lead to weight gain is because there is problems with their sleep. I have talked previously on previous episodes about how sleep affects the weight gain in teenagers, because marijuana use can disrupt the regular sleep cycle in teenagers. then they're not sleeping well, and then that can increase their likelihood of getting into an unhealthy weight. And again, you can search the previous episodes and look for the episodes where I talk more about the association of poor sleep with unhealthy cravings in teenagers. And obviously, if you're not sleeping, then that's going to affect not only your hormones that are important for your metabolism, but they're going to affect also your ability to exercise. So it's multifactorial, and weed has a negative effect on your sleep. Now, there is also a third mechanism that by which weight can lead to weight gain, and that is because there is increased risk for cravings for unhealthy snacks, particularly the ones that have high, and there is preference for high caloric food, especially the sweet and fatty foods. They seem more appealing. And obviously, if you're consuming most of these factors, you are going to gain more weight. Another mechanism by which marijuana use can lead to weight gain in teenagers is the ability of teenagers to exercise goes down with the common marijuana use. So there's decreased motivation to exercise. There's this kind of sleepiness, kind of lethargy, slow motion, and this makes it less likely to go and do activity, and you just want to be in bed or in the couch or just doing nothing. So it doesn't promote physical activity. And if you're not physically active, then again, that's going to lead to unhealthy weight gain. That's going to lead to higher risks to be in an unhealthy weight even when you're 20 and 24. And finally, there is also some studies that marijuana may affect metabolism. It can potentially affect the way that your body processes and stores energy, and it can potentially affect the way that your body prefers to store fat instead of breaking down the fat. I hope this was convincing, and I know in certain states in the United States that use of marijuana is legal. I know it is more accessible to teenagers, and as part of our counseling and our conversations as parents and as professionals we have with teenagers, we talk about the importance of staying away from all those substances and reducing these addictions. And for those teenagers that it is important for them to have healthy habits, and it's important for them to get into a healthy weight, I think it is important to know that one area they can target is if they are smoking a lot of marijuana and weed, they need to cut back on that and stop it, and that will improve their efforts dramatically. I hope this was helpful. If you like this episode, please feel free to share it with somebody who may find it helpful. And you can subscribe to my newsletter if you want, if you haven't done so far, lifestyleforteens.com/newsletter. And let's stay in touch. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or any topics you'd like me to talk about.